everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm working in Hanna Karlzon's Magical Dawn. I've not worked in this book for the longest time. Now I've got 2 copies of each of Hanna's books in different languages, the papers, different quality, and this is the only copy of Magical Dawn that I've got, so I do cherish this book and I don't use it as much as I probably should for that reason. But I've decided today to do the background first, and I'm using the Winsor & Newton Cotman's watercolour paints, and I've got a small handful of the professional ones as well. The majority of the blue is the professional one. I did do a little pan over at the start, but I'm doing the wet on wet technique, so I'm wetting the paper first with clean water and then going over the top with paint. Now I did previously mix the colours on a palette, and then when I started doing it I wasn't happy, so I was going straight from the pan to the paper to get more pigment on there. Now looking back at this page, I wish that I'd done the blue halfway or 3/4 of the way down the page and then added a orangey yellow tone to the bottom to make it look like it was sand, like a seashore picture. I wish that I'd done that. I do like the end result, but if I come across another picture that's similar to this, I think I'll definitely give that a go and try and create more realistic waves. So this video is sped up by ×4, so it took me around about an hour. That's not including the times that I had to leave it to completely dry because I was working in layers, but I was just using 3 to 4 different shades of blue in this and adding tiny bits of black later on, and it does give a really cool watercolour effect doing it, and I'm really surprised with how well this paper took this amount of water. I didn't prep it with anything, I didn't use the gesso or the liquid satin or anything, it was just straight paint onto the paper. Just going into all the little nooks and crannies just to get all the little details. I love watching this back, seeing all of the way that the paint moves around the paper with the water. I found it fascinating actually, but in true real time you can't really notice much, but actually watching this back it is really cool. If you've watched my channel for any time at all, you'll know that I absolutely adore these watercolour paints. I have tried numerous different brands. My previous purchase, my very last purchase of watercolour paints were the Paul Rubens, just the normal ones, not the glittery ones. And although they are nice, they don't work as nice, in my opinion, as the Winsor & Newton ones. They just lay down really easily. The pigment is beautiful. Now I've let this dry completely. I think I let it dry for about 40 minutes before I decided to go in with the second layer, and you can see that the paper has started to buckle ever so slightly, and I'm just going in and wetting the paper. And I forgot to mention as well at the start of the video that I'm using 2 different jugs of water, one to initially clean the brush off to get most of the pigment off there, and then the second one to just make sure that it's definitely clean. So I was using that second jug to take the water out of there and pop that on the page, and then just pop pigment over the top and sort of let it do its own thing. I didn't particularly move it around, I wasn't moving the paper around, although if you did that it would probably give an equally good effect. If you'd pick the book up and put it at a slant, the paint would run down the page, and that probably would look just as good as well actually for this sort of picture with the shells. So let me know what you think about these different angles that I'm trying to mess around with. I'm still practicing, I'm trying to get my perfect setup, and my Instagram just popped up there. If you haven't gone over and followed me on Instagram, I'm exactly the same name, Colour Me Stress Free. I'd love to follow you and have a nosy at your colouring pages or any art that you do. And what I've just popped in there is liquid watercolour. It's the Ecoline liquid watercolour in white. And I've let this paper dry again, and I'm just doing the exact same thing, wetting the page first and then just popping a little bit of that liquid watercolour. Now that stuff is super duper pigmented. I would love to try the I think it's just E. coli liquid watercolour. Knowing how well these work on the paper, I'm really curious to see how they would act as well. And I believe that there's inks as well. I think there's watercolour inks. But yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit of white to certain areas, and the white that comes in the Winsor & Newton palette in the cotton one that I've got isn't overly pigmented. So we're on to basing the shells, and this is just a really thin layer of, I think it was burnt sienna, and I just did that just to get rid of the white of the paper, because I don't know about you, but it makes me feel a bit nervous having the white of the paper. So if I sort of, it's like tricking my brain, if I've got rid of it, then I can start doing my colouring over the top. That's definitely what my brain works like when it comes to watercolour anyway. Now, I wanted the paper to be really textured because I knew that the pencils that I was going to work with work really well on textured paper, and I wanted to add just a little bit of highlight. So I'm going ahead with the Winsor & Newton white gouache. Now here I didn't realise that the brush that I'd chosen to use had slightly got some skin tone colour paint still in it. So it didn't end up being a pure white, which was fine because it was the burnt sienna was already down there anyway. But this didn't turn out, I'll be honest, this didn't turn out how I envisioned it, and I do end up going over the top and adding some more white in different areas once I'd done all the pencil work. So again, I've let that completely dry before even starting the pencil work, because it might damage the paper if it's a little bit wet. And I believe that was Mineral Orange by Prismacolor, and I've started doing the shading with that, and then we move on to the Derwent drawing pencils. If you've never tried the Derwent drawing pencils, they're super duper creamy, but they do crumble quite a lot. But the Chinese white pencil is absolutely fantastic for any sort of highlights. You could even use it as a blender, like your Prismacolor white blender. And I'm just adding shading over and over until I'm happy. You see how pigmented that white is? I'm not really pushing down overly hard, it's a medium pressure, and it's just superb. If you're looking for a good white pencil, I definitely recommend that Derwent drawing one. Now again, the Derwent blender here, I'm on a bit of a Derwent kit by the looks of it. The Derwent blender is superb with these pencils, it blends out like a dream. So for a few details, I'm using the Faber-Castell Pitt pen in black. Now I do end up switching to a different size, there you go, so more of a brush pen, because I wasn't happy with the really thin lines. It would have took me forever and a day to fill in all the little details that I wanted to do. And then I think it's the Arteza white gel pens, which usually I don't have a problem with, and I really like them. And it's probably because of how many layers there are down on the paper and all the wax build up, they didn't really work very well. But I switch over to the gouache, the paint. So I will leave you here just for a moment, just while I finished all the pencil work and the black detailing, and then we'll come back when I start doing the gouache work. I tell a lie, it wasn't gouache, it was white acrylic. I only finished this picture last night, so how could I have forgotten that? But in future, when I know that I'm going to be using a lot of white on a page, instead of sitting there with the gel pen, because gel pens can be quite temperamental, especially some of the brands that I've tried, you know, they don't come out very smoothly. But in future, this is the route that I'm going to take. Definitely either white gouache or white acrylic. It's just so much quicker, so much easier, and it's really super duper pigmented just with that one little swipe of the brush. So this is why I thought it was gouache, because I mixed it with loads and loads of water towards the end. And I'm kicking myself now because I should have done this on the right hand side of the page. That's where I put all the original highlights with the Chinese white pencil. So yes, that's annoying. I don't know why I did it on the opposite side. I think it's because I'd already popped down that white gel pen. I thought I have to do it on that side now. But I think this just gives it another cool effect. And I did layer this quite a lot, so once it's dry, you feel the paper. There's a really rough texture. I like that to my colouring pages. It just makes it fun for me. This was just a really easy page, you know, when I don't want to sit there and layer and worry about the colours like for portraits and stuff. Sometimes I just like an easy page, like diamond painting. Sometimes you can just do your diamond painting. You can have a film on in the background, or your music, or an audio book, and just sit there and relax and do what you're enjoying doing. And that's what I did with this page, and that is the end result. The picture on the left hand side was done, gosh, probably 2 years ago now, I want to say. But if you did enjoy the video, please do like it and subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.